in order to have the most optimal offspring, it is better for this egg, right, to have multiple options to choose from. And then of those multiple options, right, of the several men she's had, they fight amongst themselves. The semen fights amongst itself. The defensive semen will beat each other up, and the offensive semen will, like, run to the goal. And then of the ones that remain, of, like, if there was, let's say, 5 men, or let's say the top 3 knocked out the bottom, the 2 weaklings, and then the 3 strongest were on the way. She sends out her attraction hormone, and then it'll attract, let's say, 2 of them. Then when they both get there, she feels them. It's like, which one of you 2 do I like? Okay, I like you. And then she'll open up the door and she'll allow in the one that she likes. That process, not to say it guarantees a really good, strong offspring, but it heightens the probability of a good, strong offspring by 1,000,000,000%. Hello, and welcome back to Bri Speaks podcast. I am your lovely host, Bri Speaks, who created the 6 narcissistic social hierarchies of control. The 6 narcissistic social hierarchies of control are patriarchy, capitalism, corporatism, racism, ableism, and religion, with an honorary mention always to animalism or speciesism, because humans are not any better than animals. So anyways, and so today, what are we talking about? Today we are talking about, drum roll please, I will put today's topic broadly under the patriarchy. I know we've been talking about the patriarchy a lot recently, but hey, I'm just telling you all what I'm called to tell you by the folks upstairs, and what they tell me to tell you is what they tell me to tell you. So here we are. So, and today we have been told to talk about monogamy, and is it real? Is it not real? Is it something we're naturally supposed to be doing? Is it something we're not naturally supposed to be doing? What does science say? What does psychology say? What does biology say? What does the spirit realm say? All find out on today's episode of Bri Speaks. All right, so as I sat here and I thought about monogamy and humans, and if we are supposed to be with one person, one partner until the day that we die. Like, once we meet our soulmate, our soul connection, our yin to our yang, our peanut butter to our jelly, my husband, or, your twin flame, the person you think you are supposed to spend the rest of your life with, when you meet that person and the society tells you are supposed to then commit to one another long-term, forevermore, until the day that you die through marriage, this social and legal contractual agreement, and spiritual, social, legal, and spirit realm, because everything, y'all need to realize that everything that happens in the 3D, in the earthly realm, spirit comes first. Like, it is spirit first. Things happen in the spirit realm, or the higher dimensions, like, or if you want to be like, whatever you want to call it, the planes of existence, the dimensions that we in the 3D cannot access, although we can if you know how, but if you don't know how, you think you can't. So yeah, anyone can access the spirit realm. They just want you to think that it doesn't exist, because the spirit realm is the within before the without. Like, it is the internal to the external. It is the feminine to the masculine. It is the existing in stillness and love and just nurturing and kindness, and not basing value. It is basing value on what is inside of you, not what your body can do, what your external can do. So they guide everyone away from feminine things, feminine energies, feminine, just anything that is effeminate or associated with the feminine. They demonize it, and they tell you to run far away from it, when it is exactly what you need to tap into and find all the things you've ever been looking for. Okay, so what does this all have to do with monogamy? So there are universal laws of nature, universal laws of the universe. There's universal laws, like the universal laws that apply to, like, this dimension and others, like this dimension and the spirit realm, like different planes of existence. Those, I'm not even going to talk about those right now. I'm not even talking about those right now. I'm going to talk about those. But underneath those, there are some laws of nature, right? The laws of nature are the ones that I talk about the most. Whenever I'm talking about what God did and God created, I look at things I like to look at things from a 3D realm, from a biological, from a scientific, from a chemical, from a molecular standpoint. So I like to look at natural laws with that we see in nature because they are indisputable in my personal opinion. So one of the natural laws, and I would say again that I would say this is also a universal law, but I don't. Again, the universal laws, I can't say that I know them or I don't know them because that's that. But one of the universal laws is reflective of the fact that there are no two things that come together forever. Energy is always in motion, right? Energy, it's like all things are energy. So energy, I can plug in my "What is God and what is God" video here, but God is, I like to look at God as a ball of energy, and each of us is a small piece of that God energy, and each of us has a tiny piece of God energy flowing through us, and it is unique to us because it came from a different part of the ball of God, and so we all have our own different perspectives, but we are all still very connected because we all come from the same source, we all come from the same place, and if you put us all back together again, we will all fit very perfectly back into that spherical that ball in my mind. It's not even really just it's not even a sphere. I think of it as like literally like a sun almost. I think of God as like a sun. Like, it's not a perfect sphere. It's a he's a she's a they're a it's a but and again you can think of whatever but I call it this God energy, but it's like it's the stuff that everyone feels. Like all humans feel this divine essence, this divine connection. Unless you're an atheist and you feel like you can explain away every single thing that you don't understand by coincidence or science. And what you can explain everything to science. I always say spirituality and science. Again, spirituality works with nature's laws and universal laws. And universal laws and nature's laws, they don't contradict one another. They build off of one another. They're microcosms of each other. They're derivatives of each other. They are the same thing, but at a different level. So things that are in natural laws they correspond to spiritual laws or universal laws. Okay. So we know that no two things come together forever, and stay that way forever, just by way of energy being a thing that is in motion. So it's like, I always think, when I think of like molecules, I think of sodium chloride is always just like the easiest one that comes to my mind. Salt. When you get a sodium ion and a chlorine ion, and you put them together, and it makes salt. That salt, they're not going to be salt forever. Like eventually, something will dissolve that bond between those two ions, and then that sodium will go away and become something else, and that chloride ion will go away and become something else. But it will not be salt forever. It will just be salt for a moment in time, and that is everything. That is everything and all things on the planet Earth that survives forever. Like nothing survives forever. Energy is always in a form at one moment in time, and then it's in a different form at a different moment in time. So things will meet and collide, but they will never stay together forever. And so to have a relationship that is marriage be this contract where two energies have to stay together forever, literally till the energy is no longer in that same state of being anymore, which is death. Like death is like the end of that cycle onto another one. So that the end of your human existence in the 3D, in the three dimension, like I here on planet Earth, you have to have your entire life experience as this form tied to one person and unable to experience other people in specific ways now and for the rest of your life. It's like you when you look at things and again from a natural standpoint, it's like it's very unnatural. It's very unnatural to make two things come together and then force them to stay together when they are ready to naturally drift apart. Things naturally come together and they naturally drift apart. It's how the continents happen. Pangea was one big continent and then it naturally drifted apart, and then it'll probably keep drifting and it'll come together again on the other side, 3 billion years from now. So it's just like, that's how things work. They come together and then they drift apart. And so to have this contract saying that two people have to stay together for the rest of their life, it is antithetical to nature. Okay, nature and just like the laws of the universe, which is how you should live your life. Because you can't live your life any other way. You can try to go against the laws of nature, but it won't work. It literally won't work. And that is why there are so many people who are in divorce. That's why there are so many people are getting divorced. That's why the conservatives are trying to push people back together. That is why, because that's why there are divorce rates. That's why there's so much cheating, because it's just like you're trying to put these two people together, these two energies together, and make them stay together forever, even when they're naturally ready to drift apart. It's a natural thing for people to come together in a moment, enjoy each other's experience, enjoy the moment that they're together, and then you drift apart. Like in the spirit realm, right? There is no such thing as, time doesn't exist. Like, I want to say we all know that time doesn't exist, but I wish everyone knew that time doesn't exist. Everything is now. Everything is now. Everything is now. Everything is. I don't want to go too far in that direction, but you're supposed to live in the now. And that is hard to do when you are constantly having to think about your future with someone else. It automatically just puts you in the future. It automatically it does something to your natural state of being that is unnatural. And yes, and so since things are naturally always energy, always in motion, because all energy is always in motion, anytime something is stagnant, it is dead, and it will begin to decay. That's the natural, literally, again, the universal law of nature is if something is stagnant still, something is not moving, it is dead, and that means the decay process will begin, and then that decay process helps add food to the folks who need it, who will then become food for something else that will grow out the ground, be eaten by someone else, and then that will be eaten by someone else, and then pooped out, and then become fertilizer to feed something else that will then become a plant to feed something else. Yeah, it's always the cycle. Like in nature, everything's always working in cycles. It's always around and round and round and round again, which is why time doesn't exist. Time is time is not linear. Time is is a circle. This is time. It's like it doesn't matter if it's now or later. It's always coming back again, and you're always gonna have another opportunity to do what you wanted to do. Especially if you want that opportunity. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like, time repeats, time, like it repeats itself. It's just like, it'll just come under different energies, but it'll be the same thing. But it's like, so if time, it's like time doesn't exist. I'm like, and then, but you if you spend too much time in the spirit world, like myself, though, you will, when you start losing track of time. And that's why when people are in flow, okay, tapping in, when people are in flow state, they lose track of time, because flow state is when people are, so they're connected, like they're plugged into the spirit realm, like their creativity is coming from their like highest self, coming from the spirit world, coming from the highest self, their true self, like they are connected to their emotions, their true self, their highest self, and they are doing what they are called to do. They feel like they're doing what they're called to do. They're fulfilling their purpose in real time. They are in that flow state of just like literally time does not exist. You can do something for hours and only come up for biological purposes only, and then go back in it if those biological purposes don't throw you out of it. That flow state, that is what it feels like to be connected to the spirit realm. It's like time does not exist there. It's only now. It's just like it's now in this experience, and everything else. It's just like this joy. It's just joy and happiness, and like it just feels good. So where was I going with that? Yeah. So I was saying, so something is stagnant, it is dead. So a marriage, to me, not to say it's stagnant, but it's like it is a stagnant relationship by virtue of what it is. And I know you can, two people will be growing together, and then you'll fall in love with the new versions of yourself. And that is true. But there is still an inherent sameness. Because although people will grow and change, I'm just like, people's character, their inner being, it doesn't really change. Like their personality will show up. Like, I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to explain what I'm trying to say. Okay, so I am a very different person than I was, let's say, even like 10 years ago, right? 10 years ago, I was still in college, I would say. Less secure in who I am, less touched in with my highest self, and less likely to stand up for myself, I would say. And so, but if you knew me back then and you know me now, you would know I'm the same person, but that I've grown and I've changed. But you would know, you would know I'm the same person, if that makes sense. So there is sameness of the same person, but they're growing and changing. Like they can expand their knowledge, they can get new capabilities, new like skills, like ambitions, and priorities might shift. But like the person, I've always been like a talkative person. I've always been a smarty pants. I've always been funny. I've always been the class clown. I got class clown actually. I got awarded that in college. I think maybe did I get funny class clown in high school? I might have got class clown in high school, but I know I got it in college, senior year of college, because I was just, and I haven't really done. I used to do stand up. I should put up something on stand up comedy for you guys one day. But yeah, nah, these are serious topics I talk about, like, helping people deconstruct their minds from the world that is. These are serious topics, so I don't get a chance to like be funny. But I enjoy comedy a whole lot. Love like food and laughter are my love languages. Those are the two things I love giving people is good food and laughter. That's ooh, if I can give you those things, I'm a happy gal. Um, but yeah, but I've always been I've always been like this. So it's just like so there is a stagnation in the concept of marriage that is unnatural. I don't know what to like how I can't put my finger on that, but again, whenever we know everything is either a derivative of something else or a microcosm of something else, making two energies or two people stay together for past a time where they would naturally stay together without this social or legal contract is unnatural. It's unnatural. It's unnatural. It is unnatural. And anything that is unnatural is bad and is dangerous. Again, not necessarily bad, but like dangerous. Dangerous for sure. Dangerous for sure, because that's when you get all these men in these marriages and they can't like leave because the patriarchy tells them if you're a man, you're not get a divorce, you're a failure, which they tell that to women too. But like I feel like men take it more personally because they're more indoctrinated into the patriarchy, and so they have internalized this belief much more heavily with their personal self-value. So they value not getting a divorce more than the woman because one, they're typically benefiting from the marriage more, and so they are experiencing less unhappiness, but also two, their self-worth and their self-image is tied to not getting a divorce. And so they care more about not getting a divorce than they care about themselves actually being happy. So yeah, so just from like a spiritually logical standpoint, marriage is nuts. Marriage is nuts. Is nuts. And so then from a biological, like from a nature standpoint, it says 3 to 5% of all mammals are monogamous. So like 3 to 5%. So that's like so it's basically none. So it's basically none. So it's like that's almost none. 5%, if we do the higher end, and I'm just like, I feel like it's on the higher end that's being very generous because I need to look into this 3 to 5%. But I'm like, even that 3 to 5%, I feel like it's probably still not even going to be wholly monogamous, as in like they have a reproductive interaction with one other of their species, and then they do it with that one person or a species member for the rest of their lives. It's probably like even if even post partner passing away, do they stay at that point? Do they never touch any other of that species ever again? And if it's a duck, does that duck never see another duck ever again? Even if their duck husband dies, or their duck wife dies, like so. I'm just like even monogamy in its truest sense is not true, because there's going to be someone in that species who is sleeping with more than one person. Even if the species in general is monogamous, there's still going to be someone in that species who is not monogamous. So it's just like monogamy is not a natural thing. It's not a natural thing for like any animal. And I want people to realize that we are animals. We are regular animals like any other animal on this planet. Like, again, it is a narcissistic point of view to think that you as a human are more intelligent, more capable, more connected, more tapped into the spirit realm than an animal. It's like animals are extremely intelligent. They are extremely social creatures. They have their own ecological laws and systems that we may not agree with or understand, but that doesn't make them less or worse, or it's just they have a different way of life. Like they literally just have a different way of life. And it's just like, because they're in a different body, but if you were born into that body, you would live like them too. And but the narcissist can't think of the fact that there is a different way of life. They think if someone is living a different way of life, that person must be unintelligent, because my way of life is the only way of life that is the correct way of life. It is the best way of life. It is the number one hierarchical way of life. And so your way of life has to be worse. And so I have to dominate your way of life. I have to crush your way of life. I have to make sure your way of life doesn't exist, because your way of life existing threatens my way of life. Because if there's more than just one of us, then that means there has to be one on top, and that means one has to be on bottom, and I'm not going to be on bottom because my way is the best way, because I'm a narcissist and I think I'm the best thing in the world that there ever was, that ever walked on planet Earth. So now I will destroy you. That is how humans think. That is how the narcissists think. That's how humans think about animals all the time. And that is stupid. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. But anyway, so animals, we are just another animal. We are literally just another animal in the ecosystem that is the force of life. We just happen to learn how to talk out loud this way and coordinate this way, and then use our fingers and our thumbs in a certain way over the last, maybe a few 100,000 years. And it gave us quite the ridiculous leg up. But there are other planes and dimensions where I know we never learned how to talk, and I actually want to go explore there because people learning how to talk was the worst thing that ever happened to humanity. I want to go back to telepathic talking only. Personally, I enjoy it good. I enjoy it good. I enjoy a good energy reading. I enjoy speaking through energies. It is more authentic. It is more like just like soul to soul, and it's like relatable, and it's like there's less misunderstandings when you're telepathy talking, energy reading. Really, there's less misunderstanding than it is when you're talking. When you're talking, all kinds of crap happens where everyone's like, oh, that's not what I said. And it's like, oh no, you said this. Talking is messy. Energy reading, yeah. Okay. Okay, so back to other biological reasons why we're not monogamous. Our closest relatives are not monogamous. So the closest relatives are my favorites, the bonobos, which are the matriarchal, like, what are they? Not chimpanzees, but like they're primates. They're matriarchal primates where if any time the men get upset, everyone just starts having reproductive interactions with one another. And I think it's fantastic. I think it's fantastic that everyone just, comes together in love, happiness, and pleasure, and then there's no war. And that's how the bonobos live. And they are our closest relatives. And then there's also the chimps, who are more patriarchal. I don't like the chimps, but they're not monogamous, so that's that. Okay, and so this one, I think this is point number 3 or 4, is I think one of the more like damning pieces of evidence, and that is the sperm wars that men have inside of lady parts. So men's sperm have 2 components, 2 types of sperm. They have like offensive, this is what I call them. I call them offensive sperm and defensive sperm. The offensive sperm obviously goes for the goal, goes for the points. It's going to be the one that swims faster. But there are also defensive sperm that are like the linebacker pattern guys who are going in there and they're knocking other sperm from other men out of the way to make sure their guy can get to the goal. That is how men's sperms work. So why biologically, why biologically would men have offensive and defensive sperm if it wasn't evolved to have to fight other sperm inside of the lady arena, is what I'm going to say. And when I was listening to like a man talk about this, disgusting. Sorry. I was listening to a man talk about this phenomenon of the dual sperm, and he was saying basically it could be that like essentially that men were evolved to grape, and so like it would be, I don't even want to say it, y'all. Again, I was like, when you're sensitive to energies, it's just like stuff like this. Like, it brings me to tears, even just like, even and like envisioning the words coming out of my mouth. So, but anyways, I'm saying it. But like holding down a woman and multiple men forcing themselves onto her. Was his explanation to why men would have evolved to have like dual swimmers. And I'm just like, that is so like, I'm just like, that's what you came up with. That's your theory. That is what you think out of your mind is the reason why men have dual swimmers is because they were having grape parties and they're great. They have to, like the minds of men, the minds of dangerous place. But no, in reality, what was happening, one of the archaeological explanations I have found and read, was that during a woman's, fertile season, if she felt she was fertile or whatever she wanted, it was usually around once a month, there would be essentially like like fiestas. That was not fiestas, like parties, a few days a month during ovulation time, which is what it would have corresponded to when a woman is most, hungry, is what I'm going to say. It would have probably correlated with her ovulation time. Those few days she would have as many suitors as she wanted to. and having sessions as long as she wanted to with as many people as she wanted to. And that makes much more sense. And here's why. One, because first of all, ladies have we have an organ, we have a whole organ, but I call it iceberg because, it has like the tip and then the whole, then it has the rest in there. But we have an entire organ dedicated solely to our pleasure, solely to our pleasure. Like it has no other job. It has no other job other than to make us happy. I'm just like, that is not something that evolves by accident. That does not evolve by accident. That is how many nerve endings. You know how expensive it is to make a nerve ending? Do you know how hard it is to make a nerve ending, to make sure it's not too sensitive, make sure it's not activated all the time, to make sure it's not, just like it's a nerve endings they're very particular nerves. And to have them all so wonderfully and delicately done and placed in this place and just for the sole pleasure for her to get pleasure from the reproductive process. No, we were not evolved to have schmecks forced upon us without our consent or our will or our wanting. That is not how we were evolved. That also reminded me of another societal story that I heard about. There was it was like a queendom, and this is going to be like the men's worst nightmare. They're like, oh, this is why we don't ever want women to be in charge because this is what they think would happen. But I heard about this one kingdom or society or what have you, where the women would have men, come and pleasure them, and if they didn't pleasure them, then it was off. It literally off with their head. They didn't make them have their big O, then it was like off with their head. And and another reason why, and another reason why that makes sense that women would have had like essentially like, a window of time where they were just, going and going and going and going is because women can have multiple O's. They can have a O after O after O after O. While, obviously men, it's like, you're one and you're done typically, or, hey, two if you're lucky. But, and then those sessions, they don't necessarily always last very long. But for the woman, if she's like, if she's in her groove, in her mode, if she is, if her oven is warmed all the way up and turned up to the maximum capacity of fun, she could go for as long as she wanted. Physically, what is the limit for a woman to be able to continuously have pleasure explosions? Hey, let's Google it. That's a fun question. Hey, Google, what's the longest session for a woman ever? Let's see if that does it. All right, the Google doesn't have great records, but it says there was one woman who did 919 men over the course of 12 hours. And then there is a adult performer named Bonnie Blue who claims to have broken this record by sleeping with 1,057 men in a 12-hour window. That's not what I was going for. Okay, this one says, this is what I was going for. A Cameroonian woman, Dana Zara, announced a marathon, is what I'm going to call it, attempt, claiming she intended to engage in 200 hours of continuous intercourse. While the event generated significant media coverage, official verification of completed continuous 200-hour session is non-existent in the mainstream record books. So anyways, I was saying that technically, right, women can have sessions for as long as they want to with as many people as they want to if they so choose to do so. And that would only work if they are continuously being pleasured or happied. It would not work if it is a continuous, non-consensual, unhappy experience. That would not like optimal procreation. And in fact, we know that women who have orgasms more often are like more often to get pregnant or something like that. You're more likely to get pregnant if you have an orgasm or if you're enjoying the schmecks. If you're enjoying it, you are more likely to actually be impregnated. And that goes into the next portion of these little things is there is scientific evidence that the women's eggs choose the receptor of the choose whichever swimmer wins the race. It's not just that she just sits there like a beautiful butterfly and says, oh, I'm a damsel in distress, and all the men are just running. Whoever gets to her first gets to snatch her up and run. No, that is not how it works. And again, from a biological standpoint, that is silly. It's silly. It's silly. It don't even make no sense. That is not reflective of anything in nature or otherwise. So the feminine entity in this instance, she puts out these like chemicals to one, attract the specific suitor that will be chemically bonded well with her. And then also, I want to say there's something else. So she does something to attract the people, the ones that she wants. And then she has something else, I believe, that like deletes and shoos away, and she doesn't open up for the ones that she doesn't want. And then that also corresponds to all the latest research that has said that women who have miscarriages are not miscarrying because of something that they did. It's usually a rejection from the woman's womb or her spirit, hey, everything is spirit first. Everything is spirit first. So if your womb has rejected a implantation, a egg, it is typically because that sheath, your womb has felt like that egg was not good. It was not valuable. And that's usually because the sperm that it came from is not good and it's not valuable. And scientifically, science has been coming out saying that men, miscarriages are mostly due to weak sperm, because the sperm is not doing what it's supposed to do. And so the womb will reject it. And that is what a miscarriage is. It's not the womb failing. It is the womb saying, your girlfriend, no, not this one. No, not this one. No, not this one. Well, yeah, miscarriages, I know this may be controversial, but they're likely a blessing and a message. They're likely a blessing and a message. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying is your body, the egg does not. Also, I was gonna say, so the egg is choosy. She's a picky egg. She don't want just anything. But what marriage does is it forces one man to like shoot his shot at this one egg. Even if the egg rejects it, even if the egg doesn't want it, even if the egg will not get pregnant by this semen, marriage like keeps letting that man get a shot and a shot and a shot and a shot with no competition. And so the woman will eventually end up pregnant because the egg on the inside, she's gonna slip up one day and say, "Oh man, dang, maybe you didn't eat something and that had your protective hormones high enough, or maybe he stressed you out, and so your hormones dropped, and so she got weak and she let him in, and then you got pregnant. That's why you got pregnant. But if you have been, I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that. But if you've been trying and things haven't been working out, that's it. It may or may not be for a reason. It may or may not be for a reason. That's all I'm gonna say. All right. Yeah. And so, but because there are all, so, but when you think of it from a biological, logical, evolutionary standpoint, what I'm saying makes sense because in order to have the most optimal offspring, it is better for this egg, right, to have multiple options to choose from. And then of those multiple options, right, of the several men she's had, they fight amongst themselves. The semen fights amongst itself. The defensive semen will beat each other up, and the offensive semen will, run to the goal. And then of the ones that remain, of if there was, let's say, 5 men, if the strongest 2, or let's say the top 3 knocked out the bottom, the 2 weaklings, and then the 3 strongest were on the way, she sends out her attraction hormone, and then it'll attract, let's say, 2 of them, because she's like those 2, so they got like a speed boost from her. And then when they both get there, she feels them. And it's like, which one of you 2 do I like? Okay, I like you. And then she'll open up the door and she'll allow in the one that she likes. That process, not to say it guarantees a really good, strong offspring, but it heightens the probability of a good, strong offspring by 1,000,000,000%, because already you knocked off the weakest ones from the beginning because they didn't even make it past, each other. And then the one that's the most compatible got the speed boost. And then the one that she likes the most, the egg likes the most, is the one who actually gets in. And if she likes it the most, it's because some sort of genetic compatibility there, something is there. Again, be it spiritually, reproductively, or biologically, or chemistry, something is there. And she's like, yeah, okay, I pick you out of you too. And so that is how you optimize having good offspring. It is not one man, like a woman. And then another layer of protection on top of that is the woman chose which of the 5 men who got to even enter the race in the first place. That's another protective layer for the woman, and ensuring that she has good, healthy offspring. Because she didn't pick any, 5 Joe Schmoes off the street. She picked, whatever 5 she chose to and have her marathon with. Those 5 were already, physically in the 3D looking reproductively fit. That is that tell me that doesn't make a lot more sense evolutionarily for why our parts are the way that they are, and why and how it works from an evolutionary standpoint. If there's someone who has better logic than me, I'm open to hearing it in the comments. But those are my arguments for why monogamy is logically, spiritually, scientifically, biologically, chemically just not a good idea, and probably and a bad idea. And I would say the reason for a lot of issues as people are getting married and being forced to stay together due to social norms or legal constraints or whatever, physical violence from the one party, the male party involved, likely the male party involved. But yeah, so thank you for coming. I hope you learned something today. Please do go back and fact check me or let me know why you think what I just said is all nonsense and you think marriage is absolutely natural and normal and everyone is supposed to do it. And if you don't do it, then you're weird. And if you don't like doing it, then you're weird. And you please do let me why and you got to give me good science, not just because the Bible said so. You want to hear about the Bible? I'll put my reasons why the Bible is not, I talked about that last video. All right. Thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Enjoy yourself, enjoy your friends, enjoy your family, enjoy your community today. And make sure you think deeply, overthink, critically think, and deconstruct something. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did and you learned something and you're like, wow, girlfriend, you work really hard and you deserve a tip, you can always send that at Bri Speaks, the number 2, BRISPEAKS 2 on Cash App. Or I typically say you can buy my hoodie, but the hoodies are now decommissioned. I have gotten rid of the rest of them. I'm shutting down my website. If you want a PDF copy of my 6 Narcissistic Social Hierarchies of Control, as it stands now, because if you are not new here, you know that there are really 7, and y'all. So I'm gonna put the 7th one in there. And it's going to be the 7 Narcissistic Social Hierarchies of Control. And we have to adjust because I don't want to keep just saying it and then not putting it in there. And it's just like I respect animals and plants so much, and the trees, y'all. Once you can talk to the trees, once you can read the energy of the trees, it's just first of all, the really old ones, the big old ones, y'all. They're sassy. They got personality. They'll cut you. They will roast you. They'll laugh at you. They laugh. I feel like the trees laugh at us all the time. Anyways, yeah. So I'm gonna add speciesism. I don't know. Okay, but you guys tell me. Should I have capitalism, corporatism, racism, ableism, capitalism, patriarchy, of course. Patriarchy, capitalism, corporatism, racism, ableism, and religion. Well, religion do you want to call it speciesism or animalism? Speciesism? I feel like it's speciesism. Just as a species, we think. And I don't like animalism because then that takes out the plants. So I'm gonna put speciesism. I do think I might have just made that word up. I'm not sure if I did or not, but I don't care. I'm gonna make up. You know what I mean. You know what I'm talking about. It doesn't matter if I have to make it up or not. The concept is real. Rather, there's an agreed, shared knowledge of the word for the concept or not. I don't know. I don't care. But the concept of humans putting themselves above every other species of life on this planet is there. The concept is there. So I'm calling it speciesism. Speciesism. Oh boy. And you'll let me know. I'm sure hopefully I'll put a poll in the community discussion board. That's another thing is I have started my members only. I'm just doing vlogs in there right now. So if you are, you want to know how I'm doing, I'm going to Africa soon, right? My bags are here. They're packed and ready to go. So if you want to know more about like what I'm doing on my personal time and my personal journeys, what I'm thinking, how I'm feeling, based on my new life that I'm starting with all this stuff, please do come in members only. That's where I'll be doing more like personal, intimate conversations until I figure out what else I want to do and how else I want to, expand. I want to do a Patreon. I want to do a book club so bad. Yeah, I want to do I'm just like, in this moment of transition. I'm in a moment of transition. I've got all these trips coming up. I'm spread a little thin, and my priority is making sure I get one episode out a week to you guys. Monday mornings is when I typically, put out an episode. So that's my number one priority is make sure I get one episode out a week. And now I'm adding in the vlogs, and those have been, I would say they're a light lift. They cost me like a lot emotionally because I don't like to put my personal stuff on the internet. I just want to, kind of, talk about the things that I know, talk about the science, and talk about the spirit realm, but not necessarily talk about like me as a person. um, but I enjoy it. But I've been enjoying sharing it. So I'm going to start posting in there more. So if you want to join me over there, I've got 2 tiers. The first one is woke, and the second one is woke AF, which I love personally. I thought it was clever. Cause that's the once you deconstruct, once you wake up from all of these narcissistic hierarchies that they program you, they put you to sleep. Once you wake up, you'll be woke AF. Like when you get deep, you get so deep, go past the dimension, and go into the spirit realm. That's how deep it gets. So woke AF is the one that'll have access to my personal life and blogs. So I hope to see y'all there. And I'm sure I will do I'll do more. I'll do more eventually. But for now I'm like what you getting there is worth $1 million to me. It's worth $1 million to me. But hey, what you decide to share, with me is up to you. So I do hope to see you guys around though. It'll be a good time. I'll be asking you for your help and whatnot, and for your advice. So that is all. I hope you learned something today. If you did, please do share if you care. And until then, I will talk to you next time. I love you. Bye bye.